don't really see any point to going over this, but James does. And he's eating this Vietnamese beef pho again, which there were only 2 at the store on sale for 90 cents each. They were on clearance because I've been giving James clearance food lately, but I've been giving him good stuff too. I mean, he's eating some kale and yams and.
Oh, there's a lot of healthy stuff
so,
there. So
whatever.
I don't know why she's being so apologetic.
Well,
I mean, there's
don't know.
beets
I'm
there.
feeling down about everything. I've been.
Where the bag is?
Well, it might be the weather. It's
Well,
it's February.
sometimes
It's
when
easy to
you
get
finish up a big project.
Oh, you think that's what it is?
Yeah. So I don't know what William Collins was like, or is it Buzz Aldrin? He kind of like had a nervous breakdown after he made it to the moon. One of those two
Really?
guys. But I don't know. He might have been a little bit hypomanic. I wouldn't say you couldn't be manic depressive and be on a flight like that. Like they were gone for days, stuck in kind of like a tin can. So David Bowie put it in ground control to Major Tom, whatever it was called. And that's what he saw it in what it was called. You're bound to have a little bit of a letdown after doing something like that. You were working on it for more than a month, yeah, exactly right. So I didn't want to say months because that suggests 3 or more somehow or another, you know.
I think 2 months.
Yeah, exactly right. That's what I felt.
It felt like that.
That's why I didn't want to say months.
All right, so in case you're wondering, I'm now on page 172.
Isn't that awesome? So
It's
I was
dreadful.
figuring what, you
It's
were
not
1/5 of the
awesome,
way
it's
through?
dreadful. No. This is not fun. I had more fun
She's been reading
going
it to me.
Yeah. I had more fun reading the Canterbury Tales because I found that I could actually understand most of it quite easily. Just by reading it aloud. Whereas if I tried to read it without reading it aloud, I didn't understand what was going on. But once I read it aloud, I was like, "Oh, yes, you can make out what it is." It's kind of it made it kind of fun. The fact that it was sort of like reading a mystery that way, you know, because you don't expect you're going to know what it means.
The important thing is there are actual stories in there that you can understand. This thing is supposed to be an epic.
Yeah,
an
but
epic
I
is
didn't
supposed
like
to be a
the
story.
Knight's Tale.
It doesn't matter. I mean, there are all sorts of tales.
I mean, it was so silly. They're like fighting, and there's so much blood. They're like wading in it or whatever, and it's like, okay, really? Yeah, there's still. That's not even possible.
Well, I mean, there are many different tales there. He borrowed a lot of different plots from around the world, well, around Europe and stuff like that. And I never liked the Knight's Tale that much. It's too long. But what the heck? The important thing is even though from what I can tell, it's stilted English. It's not really English. He's using inversion. I'm going to do an analysis of how he was like when he wrote prose as opposed to when he wrote poetry. And I don't think inversion even then was used in prose. So it's that's 1400 years, not 14. That's 1400 A.D. So 600 plus years ago. And this stuff, which this stupid idiot found, died something like 1972. So Pauline was alive then. You know, like she's not even 50. So I was coming up. I was 18 then, or something like that. This guy seriously overlapped with my lifetime. He was, I think, not much older than my dad, and a real scumbag. Maybe the age of my granddad. But he's a real scumbag. You know, like not him, but William Carlos Williams. There was one devotee of William Carlos Williams and the idiot who, like a minion of...
There's an Opie hair that is just floating in the air.
Okay.
It's just floating.
Okay.
It's right here. Yeah. Just keeps floating around. Opie's amazing. He has these little fine hairs and they're everywhere. I bet we breathe them in.
Probably. Extra source of protein or something like that. So these things you got to wait 5 minutes. Is that what that says?
That's what it says. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I was amazed by this. I should show you the ingredients, I guess, but they're not going to be really that healthy. But anyway, I was amazed that it smells good because it's beef something, beef faux.
Believe me, if I were going through stem cell therapy, I'd be throwing up.
Oh, so you can actually taste the beef?
Not really, but I can kind of smell something like that.
Well, I can just smell like star anise and.
Well, maybe that.
It smells good.
Anyway,
smells like it makes. I was telling James yesterday, it makes the house smell like incense.
Almost any smell of food when you got stem cell or going through stem cell therapy makes you nauseated. But the worst is meat. The worst of all was chicken, actually.
Weird. Yeah. All right, well, go ahead with the Cantos.
Okay.
I don't have anything to talk about. So, let's see.
We're going to go to, if you're following us at home, have your own copy. We're on Canto 2. She planted the skios, men wanted spring water, and by the rock pool a young boy logging to find it. And that's we planned to cover two access. Yes, we'll take it. So these are the pirates speaking. They are they're Tyrrhenian, they're called, or you really should call them Etruscan back then. That's in the north of Rome, from the western seaboard of, what do they call it, the Ionian Sea? Or Italy, the western coast of Italy. Yes, we'll take you to Nexus. Come along, lad, not that way. That way is Nexus. And I said, it's a straight ship. And an ex-convict out of Italy knocked me into the force days. He was wanted for manslaughter in Tuscany. See, Tuscany is, it would have been called Etruria or something like that, which is where the Etruscans lived back then. And the whole 20 against me, mad for a little slave money. And they took her out of Skios and off her course. And the boy came to again with a racket and looked out over the bows and to eastward and to the Naxos passage. God's light, then God's slight. Ship stock fast in sea swirl, ivy upon the oars. King Pentheus, grapes with no seed but sea foam. Ivy and scupper hole. Achates stood there, and the god stood by me, water cuttering under the keel. Sea break from stern forwards, not forwards, forwards, maybe that's a nautical term. Wake running off from the bow, and where was gunwale, there was, or gunwale, there now was vine trunk, and tenthril, not tendril, tenthril, where cordage had been, great leaves on the rowlocks, heavy vine on the oar shaft, sent out of nothing of breathing. Hot breath on my ankles, beasts like shadows in glass, a furred tail upon nothingness, lynx purr and heathery smell of beasts, where tar smell had been, sniff and padfoot of beasts, eye glitter out of black air. It's almost like reading out of a phone book. Out the numbers. That comes later, all the numbers. So Cody stood there, Ketes or whatever, stood there. So this is a sentence starting. And the god stood by me. Okay, we've got two verbs there. One in each line. Water cutting under the heel. No, cutting is not a finite verb. Okay? Water cutting under the keel. So that's a listing. Okay, he's listed something. Sea break from stern forwards. Another one. Wake running from off of the bow. And where was gunwale? There was now vine trunk. So, and where there was, he leaves the there out. Oh, he's got that. And where there had been, it should be more like that. They're now, yeah, he's not using the he wants to use a was, the had been. And here, and 10th row where cordage had been. So he puts the had been. Stupid fool. You see, where there had been gunnel, there now was vine trunk. And 10th row where cordage had been. It should have been had been when he's referring to the gunnel. But no, he's got to be cute. And he's got was gunnel, and where there was gunnel. Grape leaves on the rowlocks. Heavy vine on the oar shaft. So we're back to listing again. And out of nothing, a breathing. Hot breath on my ankles. Beast-like shadows in glass. A furred tail upon nothingness. Lynx purr and heathery smell of beast, where tar smell had been. Now, he lists, what is that? 9 things in a row, and then where tar smell what had been. Now understand, sniff and pad-footed beasts. Eye glitter out of black air. The sky overshot, dry, with no tempest. Sniff and pad-footed beasts. Fur brushing my knee skin. Rustle of airy sheaths. Dry forms in the ether. Period. Huh? And then he goes on. And the ship like a keel in shipyard. Slung like an ox in smith's sling. Ribs stuck fast in the waves. Grape cluster over pin rack. Void air taking pelt. Lifeless air becomes sinew. You know, all this stuff is they're not finite verbs. Feline leisure of panthers. Leopards sniffing the grape shoots by scupper hole. Crouched panthers by forehatch. And the sea deep blue about us. The green ruddy in shadows. And lays from now on, I cooties my altars, fearing no bondage. Okay, so finally he's got fearing. But, you know, that's over 20, a list of things. Non-finite verbs. If there are anything that are like verbs, but mainly just a listing of nouns and stuff like that. Garbage! And the Aes. From now on, Achates, my altars, fearing no bondage, fearing no cat of the wood, safe with my lynxes, feeding grapes to my leopards, all of animas, my incense, the vines grow in my homage. So yeah, there's a few verbs in there. The backswell now smooth in the rudder chains. No, the backswell was now smooth in the rudder chains. No, backswell now smooth in the rudder chains. This is supposed to date back to pre-classical Greece. The actual so-called myth, or whatever. It's not the age of the telegraph. Telegraphies, what an idiot. Blacks out of purpose, where lycos had been. Fish scales on the oarsman, period. Backswell now smooth in the rudder chains. Blacks out of purpose, where lycos had been. So had been, but you see the thing is, when you've got had been, the idea is now there's something. There is something. There's some sort of verb that's in a more recent tense than the had been. Fish scales on the oarsman, period. No real finite verb, you know, like. And I worship. Oh, wow. And again, there's that and. Why the and? I don't know. This guy is insane. He's dropping out stuff that can't be dropped out, and he's chucking in stuff that could easily be omitted. Like, and I worship. Just, I worship. And. This guy loved and so much. Almost as much as he loved himself. Or Mussolini. I have seen what I've seen. Yeah, you said that before, dude. This is, I think, the 3rd time he said it. When they brought the boy, I said, he has a God in him. Yeah. No, yeah. When they brought the boy, I said, he has a God in him, though I do not know which God. And they kicked me at the 4 days. I've seen what I've seen. Okay, this is, I'm kind of repeating what I did yesterday. Meton's face like the face of a dory, arms shrunk into fins, and you, Pentheus, so Meton's face was like the face of a dory. And you, Pentheus, had as well listened to Tiresias and to Cadmus, or your luck will go out of you. This is where I left off, yes. Fish scales over groin muscles. Lynx pyramid C. Again, we've got the telephone book listing of things. And of a year later, and of a later year, pale in the wine red algae, if you will lean over the rock. Okay, so what is the and of a later? Okay, so there's Lynx pyramid C ... Is it a new sentence? I don't know. And of course he's starting it with and, but this guy will start anything with and. And of a later year, pale in the wine red algae, if you will lean over the rock. The coral face under wave tinge, if you will. Rose paleness under water shift. Where does that, if you will lean over the rock, what? If you will, then, there's got to be a then. If you lean over the rock, the coral face under wave tinge, rose paleness under water shift. Here we're into the listing of it. Eleutheria, fair Daphne of seaboards, the swimmer's arms turn to branches. Who will say in what year? If you will lean over the rock, who will say in what year, fleeing what band of tritons, the smooth brows seen and half seen, now ivory still. And so she churned in the sea. So she also. So he's referring to something looks like Chinese. What does this have to do with this Greek god? Using the long moon for a churn stick. That might have been an image that was dreamed up by someone else. But maybe not. Why? Turning what? Oh, here we got this list again. Sinews of Poseidon. List. Black azure and hyaline. So that's kind of like glass. Hyaline. Something like glass or crystal. Glass wave over Tyro. Close cover. Unstillness. Bright welter of wave chords. Wow. Telephone book listing. Then quiet water. Then. Why does he put the then in? Why not just quiet water? Quiet in the buff sand. Seafowl stretching wing joints. Splashing in rock hollows and sand hollows. And the wave runs by the half dune. Glass glint of wave in the tide rips against sunlight. Pallor of Hesperus. Pallor of Hesperus. Pallor. And that's the evening star. Pallor. When you notice the evening star, you usually don't think of pallor. Paleness. Great peak of the wave. Wave. Color of grapes pulp. Olive grape. So a new paragraph in the middle of a sentence. Maybe, well, it's not a stanza. New paragraph, middle of the sentence. Olive gray in the near. Far. Smoke in the near. Far. I don't know. In the near far. Olive gray in the near far. Smoke gray of the rock slide. Smoke gray. Smoke gray of the rock slide, or is it smoke gray of the rock? Salmon pink wings of the fishhawk. Cast gray shadow. What? He kind of was getting tired because he actually threw a verb in there. The tower like a one-eyed great goose. It's not the tower was like a, the tower like a great goose. Cranes, the tower like a one-eyed great goose. Cranes up, okay, wow, this is 2 clauses in a row where he actually chucks in a verb, but he's losing his touch. And we have heard the fawns chiding, well, there it is, heard. The fawns chiding Proteus, yeah. In the smell of hay under the olive trees, and the frogs singing against the fawns in the half-light, and blah, blah, blah. So he seems, he loves this ad so much, he just doesn't even have it at the beginning of lines of poetry, way too long. He'll have it at the end of the cantos, and then. And why is that? Because he's trying to show the unshowable. In other words, he's trying to show there's some sort of connection between these things. Oh, I'm sure he was such a genius. There was some sort of connection between the stuff. Okay, Canto 3. We're on it now. Finally. Okay, so, and Now, what's the connection between this Greek myth or legend? It involves a god, so I don't know. Was there some sort of story behind it? Canto 3. I sat on the Dogana steps. Is that the wife of the Doge, or Doge, as we call it? It's kind of probably cognate with Duce in modern Italian, which means leader. Il Duce, the leader, Mussolini. You know, it makes me laugh when you've got managers going around saying, I'm the leader, or LeBron James saying, I'm the leader of the team. Never won a championship without someone there to help him win the championship. You know, recently it's been Anthony Davis. He had to have 2 in Miami, and he only won 2 championships. Kind of a stacked team. I call them designer teams, the things that he sets up. He had to have Wade, whatever his name is, and a guy from ne'er-do-well from Toronto, Chris Bosh, who wasn't originally from Toronto. Dwayne Wade. It wasn't Wade something or whatever. Wade was his last name, Dwayne Wade. Had to have those 2 guys. Bosch actually sank the dagger in one of the championships. I don't know. The guy couldn't win a championship if it was put in his lap. That's LeBron James. I'm the leader. So Italian, what's the leader? Il Duce. Mussolini's title. What is it in Iran? Imam, like the Ayatollah. What is it in Russia? Vajd. And that's what they called Joseph Stalin. And how about in German? Der Führer, the Führer, the leader. So you management freaks out there who are going around, strutting around, saying you're the leader, I know what type you are. You're like the Il Duce, der Führer, the Imam, and the Vajd. The Ayatollah Khomeini, and Hitler, Mussolini, Benedetto, is that his first name? Benedict, blessed. That is what that means. Adolf Noble Wolf. And Joseph Stalin, man of steel, before Superman, actually, yeah. Superman dates from just before World War II. For the gondolas cost too much that year. So gondolas, we're talking about Venice. Yeah, I got that right. And there were not those girls in inverted commas, I think the British call quotation marks. There was one face, and the Bucentoro 20 yards off, howling Stretti, and the lit crossbeams that year, and the Morosini. And we're back to the ands there. This is 4 lines in a row where he's got ands. And peacocks in Correa's house, or there may have been. Why not? There may have been peacocks in Corey's house. Why is it? And peacocks in Corey's house, or there may have been. Gods float in the azure air. Why doesn't he have and there? I don't know. Bright gods in Tuscan. It should be bright Tuscan gods. I think that's it's kind of an old-fashioned way of saying bright Tuscan gods. Bright gods in Tuscan. See how he's wasted an and tried your patience? Because you're trying to figure out what that is. I've read some older English and I've run across that. But not everyone can have that experience. Back before dew was shed. Bright gods in Tuscan, back before dew was shed. Light. Colon. Boy, colon's supposed to drag you into what follows. And I'm going, no! I'm being repulsed. Not dragged towards light. And the first light, before ever dew was fallen. Do we actually speak English that way? Understand, Ezra Pound died in 1972. And that's not BC, that's AD. That's well into my lifetime. I was 18 when the guy died. I think it's 1970, maybe 73. before dew had ever fallen. Not before ever dew was fallen. Now, why is the was there? I think it might be because in certain languages, I think it's in German and the Romance languages, when they're dealing with a verb of movement, they will use as an auxiliary not a form of to have, but a form of to be. And so instead of before dew had ever fallen, before ever dew was fallen. Okay. Stilted, stupid, inverted, panisks, and from the oak dryas. So dryas is a dryad, is an oak, kind of like, I think it's a nymph or something like that. And nereids were sea nymphs. They had a variety of different nymphs. The Greeks did. And from the apple melon. So maybe that's an apple nymph or something like that. Through all the wood, and the leaves are full of voices. Okay, so I sat on the Dagana steps, and now the leaves are full of voices. So this guy, like when you're writing poetry, unless it's a real good excuse, try to keep the tense consistent throughout. When you're writing an essay, when you're writing anything, when you're writing a story, try to keep the tense consistent unless there's a really good reason for it. This guy's just writing off the top of his empty head. And the leaves are full of voices, a whisper, but at least a whisper, eh? Like we talked about, a whisper. This is kind of like some of the folk singers were in the early 60s before Bob Dylan and the Beatles kind of straightened them out. A whisper. They're a whisper. Whispering. That's real modern English, not a whisper. Understand, this was put out in 1930. My dad was alive then. He only died 2 years ago. My granddad was almost 50 years old by that point in time. A whisper. And the clouds bow over the lake. Bow over the lake. I think it's bow over the lake. He's got bow with an E on the end. B-O-W-E. Well, it's like reading Edmund Spenser. Edmund Spenser was so bad a writer, he was trying to seem archaic, and you'd find different spellings pretty well, definitely in the same stanza, for the same word. It probably could be, you read The Fairy Queen, and it is huge. I read that watching American football. I couldn't read it really watching Canadian football because the huddles were too short. But I could get through a stanza of The Fairy Queen in each huddle in the United States, in American football. Through all the wood and the leaves are whisper, and the clouds bow over the lake. And there are gods upon them. Okay, that would be the cloud. And in the water, and, what? So now we got the and. Ands, plural. And in the water, the almond white swimmers. The silvery water glazes the upturned nipple, as Poggio has remarked. You care who Poggio is? Personally, me, I don't really care. Green veins in the turquoise.